Hey guys, Marcinkin here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so earlier on today, we did get the reveal after the panel at the event going on for Daima that there's going to be some Daima units coming to Dokkan in mid-October. However, they did confirm from the tweets posted on the actual Dokkan Twitter account that these units are going to be free to play, right? They are going to be obtainable via login and missions and stuff like that. The Goku and Vegeta from Daima that awaken into the mini versions, starting off as SRs, awakening into SSRs, and then I assume as the series goes on, they are going to continue to awaken them up to TUR, maybe give them an EZA. I went over all those details in the video that was posted earlier today and showed the card arts and stuff as well. So if you didn't see that video, do go check it out. But one of the things that I talked about at the end of the video, and is kind of the purpose for this video, I would have made one of these, I guess, anyway, in a normal celebration situation, but the Daima thing had kind of thrown off expectations, and we were speculating a little bit. And that is, of course, that this celebration for October, before we get into November, we know we're getting Heroes, as always, this year, mid-November. Maybe it'll be the last one, who knows. I did make a video yesterday going over a custom Heroes celebration made by someone in my community. Shout out to Prof. You know, Heroes could be the last one this year, we don't know, but we know we're getting it. Now with this celebration in this time slot in October, we should be getting a part 2 LR. Now that was the thing that was kind of thrown off by, well, if we are going to get some kind of Daima release and it's going to be a Dokkan Fest, a dual Dokkan Fest, an LR, like who knows, then obviously we wouldn't be getting the normal scheduled part 2 LR, or at least it seems likely that we would not have gotten the normal scheduled part 2 LR. However, now that we know that the Daima celebration is going to be kicking off and it is essentially free to play focused when it comes to the units, I imagine we'll get the event that we farm the characters from. That might literally be it, right? We might get like a special login bonus, or like just a one-time only thing, or maybe it'll be a week of missions and login bonus just to celebrate Daima's release. But it's not going to be a major celebration in and of itself, so I imagine it just runs alongside the current celebration as it's going currently. So that means we are right back to speculating about a potential part 2 LR for this celebration. So I've got the Vegeta up on the screen. Obviously Vegeta leads Namek Saga Gifted Warriors Inhuman Deeds. I wanted to focus a little bit on the Planet Namek Saga side for this video, although as we get to the end we can talk about like Inhuman Deeds and Gifted Warriors a little bit, because we did obviously get missions for the Red Zone Freezer stage, and I know from the comments on the video that I made and from stuff people have said in the subsequent streams and things, a lot of people struggling a little bit with the Planet Namek Saga mission for that stage, because it's not super difficult to beat the Freezer stage with a Planet Namek Saga team. It's beating the stage in 7 turns is seemingly the issue. So Namek Saga definitely needs more buffs. We have a couple of EZAs coming up, the Nail and Super Saiyan Goku, as well as the Full Power Freezer Super EZA. I'll do a video about those tomorrow, because obviously you can pre-farm the medals. We'll go over like the missions that will be in the Super EZA event and stuff like that. But those buffs come out tomorrow to buff the category. But getting a part 2 LR that buffs the Namek Saga, and then potentially getting another EZA in part 2 would be very good as well. So when we take a look at Planet Namek Saga, obviously the category is not particularly big, because really when we're talking about these main units, we're not going to worry about unawakened SRs or SSRs. So, you know, we've got a few LRs. Most of these, you know, outside of the LR Ginyu Force, are a good couple of years old at this point. And then even when it comes to TURs, I think is AGL Ginyu the newest one? I guess technically the TUR of the LR Ginyu Force, but I think he might be the newest one, right? So yeah, like this category has not had a lot of buffs for a while. So making a very strong meta-relevant Planet Namek Saga team is certainly a little bit of a challenge. And having a part 2 LR would definitely be beneficial. Now, the category is not super big because there's not a huge amount of characters. When it comes to like the individual Ginyu Force members, I can't imagine we would ever see standalone LR for one of these guys, or even the pairings like Jason Berta. And then Raccoon and Guldo, who they don't really strike me as like a pairing. They just get paired together because Jace and Berta Like, they are a pairing, right? They're partners, they work together a lot, they have their combo attacks. You don't really get that same impression from Raccoon and Guldo, but they're the leftover two, right? So I can't imagine these guys would get an LR. Ginyu, we got the Ginyu Force LR recently, so I think we're probably done in terms of those guys. Vegeta is extreme, so that does open up the potential for a superclass character. But again, when we talk about Planet Namek Saga, we've not got a huge amount of options for the characters. Kaioken Goku would certainly be an interesting one. We've obviously got an LR Kaioken Goku that we got during the, was it 7th anniversary, the STR one. But that would be kind of interesting, a Namek Saga one. But I wanted to focus on a couple of the picks here that I think would be interesting. And obviously I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. So do let me know who you think Part 2 LR could be and what you think of some of these choices. So a big one, because obviously a very major character in the Namek Saga. He's got a couple of LRs already. But major character, of course, would be Frieza. Now, I think an interesting way to do a Frieza would be to do one of the other forms of Frieza, right? We've got this second form one, free-to-play one from, you know, a good few years ago. 2019 October, this guy came out. So he is 5 years old at this point. And I believe he is the only second form Frieza in the game that isn't just an SR. Second form Frieza's got an interesting design in terms of aesthetic. I think that could be kind of cool. We also have the third form Frieza. This guy released, of course, as the side banner unit for Full Power Frieza during the Worldwide celebration. At the time, he was super good, right? One of the best banner units in the game. Very good release for that Frieza. But again, the only SSR in the game for third form Frieza is this guy. Who knows? Maybe we could even get like a second form Frieza that transforms into third form Frieza. It'd just be kind of cool, I think, to give the other Frieza forms that we don't really see represented as much, a little bit more representation in the game. Not that I'm like a huge fan of the other forms. I mean, they're cool enough, right? But I think it would be interesting for them to get a little bit more representation. And then, of course, we have Final Form Frieza. Now, when it comes to LRs, like obviously for the Namek Saga, we don't have a Final Form Frieza, right? We've got the first form one of the early Prime Battle LRs. We've got two full power Friezas. But those are the only forms that he has as an LR. Now, Final Form Frieza, of course, it's kind of been a meme, considering the game is going to be 10 years old in a very short amount of time. And there is still no Dokkan Fest Final Form Frieza. So I think, in a way, him getting a Part 2 LR, like, because obviously he'd be a yellow coin LR. That's the other thing you have to bear in mind as well. Him getting a Part 2 LR would then probably just reduce the chances that we're actually going to get a Dokkan Fest Final Form Frieza for a considerable amount of time. So, in a way, there's that part of me, right, that doesn't want it to be Final Form Frieza, because it would be nice to actually have a proper Namek Saga Final Form Frieza Dokkan Fest. Like, with the categories that he's on, sure, we just got Vegeta as an Inhuman Deeds leader, but he's not really the kind of character like Broly is with extreme characters. He doesn't gel necessarily super well with all the Inhuman Deeds characters, right? Like, you're not going to be linking him up with Freezers. So yeah, we've got things like Inhuman Deeds, Sworn Enemies, Planetary Destruction, Terrifying Conquerors. Like, all of these kind of things would be an interesting combo for a new Dokkan Fest leader. So if we are going to get a Frieza, I think it would be cool to get a bit more representation for some of these other forms. Like I say, maybe even have him transform. I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah, maybe a Frieza. Now, the other one that is kind of a bit of a meme, shout out to Toon. I know he likes to speculate that this guy's going to be the next Dokkan Fest. Basically, every time we get a minor celebration and we don't know who the next Dokkan Fest is going to be. And that is, of course, our boy ZARBON. Now, if we go back to the Namek Saga category, we did get that free-to-play ZARBON and Dodoria. They weren't particularly good. That was the first time, I believe, they'd gotten a card in the game that was not just an SR. And then, of course, with the release of the AGL Frieza, we got the Int Dodoria banner unit. So Dodoria now has his own standalone unit that isn't just an SR, but ZARBON does not. So ZARBON as a character for an LR for a Part 2, I think would be quite an interesting choice. I would imagine that they would go for like standard ZARBON and then transform into the monster ZARBON, or apparently it's called Super ZARBON is the official name. But I know community-wise, the name I see used the most is just Monster Zarbon. I think that would be a pretty cool choice. I mean, he's not like a super hype character, but if we're just talking about getting a Part 2 LR that's relevant to the celebration that buffs the category, I think a Zarbon would be kind of interesting, because I'm one of those people that, obviously, just like most people, if a character comes out and it's not like a character that I particularly like or I'm particularly super hyped for, then obviously it's not something I get like super excited for. But at the same time, I do also think we should have at least some representation for like all the characters in the franchise to a certain extent, right? And it's not like Zarbon, whilst he could be considered a minor character, he does still play a fairly large role in the Namek saga. So I think it would be kind of cool. He's the exact kind of unit for a Part 2 LR, right? These yellow coin LRs that have the pity system now, like, they shouldn't necessarily always just be these crazy super hype must summon characters, because a lot of people, especially if you're free to play or like a low spender, you're not going to be going in on these yellow coin banners anyway. But very much like banner units, I think that the Part 2 LRs should be something that strengthens like the team that they're going to be on. Now, Namek Saga would obviously get a buff from this guy. He wouldn't be on the 200% leader skill for Vegeta if we were using Vegeta as the leader. I mean, he could have a Planet Namek Saga leader skill, but as a yellow coin LR, that means it's just going to be, what, like 150%. But it could certainly be an interesting choice, especially with the EZAs that we're getting, the Full Power Freezer Super EZA and everything, and obviously any potential Part 2 EZAs as well. So I do think Zarbon could be an interesting choice with the transformation. Obviously, they'd have to give him a proper link set, because considering he only has SRs at the moment, he has a very terrible link set. But yeah, Metamorphosis. He has Berserker as the Monster Zarbon, which is kind of funny, because he would share that link with Broly. Cold Judgment, which is a good link, but I don't think it's very... There's not a lot of extreme units that have it. Nightmare, obviously, is a pretty decent one. Of course, he would have Fierce Battle. I guess if he was an LR, it would be these 5 links, Fierce Battle and then Legendary Power, after he transforms. And then pre-transformation, he has Frieza's Minion instead of Berserker, which I guess is a link he would share with the banner unit Kui. So, I mean, Zarbon, like I say, I don't necessarily think he's a super hype choice, and I think a lot of people would probably see Zarbon announced as the Part 2 LR and think, you know, well, that's an easy skip. But I do think it would be kind of cool. But let me know what you guys think down below for the Zarbon. And then another unit that I think would be quite interesting, if we're talking about the potential of maybe a super class character for the Part 2 LR, is in terms of recent units, because we've got like the much older one, but in terms of the recent units, the only Piccolo we have from the Namek saga is the banner unit from the Worldwide Celebration when Namek, Goku and Frieza came out. And this guy, I mean, to say that this guy was not very good is probably an understatement, right? Especially considering he released in the same celebration where we got the third form Frieza banner unit, who actually was really good. This guy was very much like a disappointment. So it'd be kind of interesting to get a Part 2 LR Piccolo in some way, shape or form. Now, something that I think would be very interesting is we do have the EZA coming up for AGL Nail. So with his EZA, I've got the details up here. His EZA comes out in a couple of days' time. And of course, one of the big things for him is that he wants to have a Namekian ally on the team. And then he also ideally wants to have a Piccolo on the team. So having a Part 2 LR Piccolo come out would obviously be super beneficial for actually being able to have that part of his passive active with a modern, like, actual relevant Piccolo. Because if we're talking about Namek Saga, on a Namek Saga team, there isn't a relevant Piccolo to run with this guy. If we're talking about just a team overall in general, we could obviously run him with like the Tech LR Piccolo, but this guy's only on a few categories. Namekians isn't really a proper category anymore, or I say anymore, it never really was. Is the LR Piccolo on Connected Hope? Because then at least they'd be on that team together. Yeah, he is. So they'd be on that team together. But yeah, we need a relevant Namek Saga Piccolo. So something that could be very interesting would also be a new version of this card, which is the old AGL free-to-play Piccolo that then, when you get to turn 5, has an animation where he transforms, where he absorbs Nail and then becomes the Piccolo with Nail absorbed. Obviously, he doesn't have a different name, which is always an annoying thing for Piccolo. They've never differentiated, which would have been nice for him to have versions of his character with different names. But I guess their name would have to stay the same throughout, which I guess would be weird, right? Because then the start of, like, the Boo Saga, he would still be called, like, or start of the Android Saga, he would still be called, like, Nail Absorbed, and then would become, like, Kami Absorbed or whatever. But anyway, those Piccolos keep the same name. So a new version of this card where Piccolo fuses with Nail, I think would be pretty cool. We could even get the card as an exchange unit. So that's something I think would be quite interesting, is give us a new Nail that exchanges into Piccolo, like Nail absorbed, because of course that unit would be called Nail / Piccolo, because that's how they do the exchange character naming, which means of course the unit would have a different name. Piccolo is part of the name even pre-exchange, so even when this guy is still in the Nail form, he would still be activating the AGL Nails passive. It counts as a separate name, which means they link as well. So, like, I think that would actually be quite a cool choice, is a Nail that then exchanges into Piccolo. And I mean, they've waited this long to do, not only to do Namek Saga again, but also to give this Nail an easy A. I think that would be something that would be very cool to see. So a unit that starts off as Nail, I mean, maybe even, I guess it wouldn't be the exchange, although I suppose the exchange condition can vary. I don't know how they would do that, but the exchange condition could be a revival, which would be kind of cool. Like maybe after a certain number of turns to help facilitate the actual revival. You know, after a certain number of turns, maybe Nail like loses all of his defense, then he gets killed, and then the cutscene obviously would be like Piccolo arrives, absorbs him, and then becomes Piccolo with the Nail fusion. That would be kind of interesting. I do like exchanges a bit more than transformations that are revivals, because of course you then have to wait, like the turn ends and then you have to wait like another 2 turns to actually get that character back to use them. So I think having like a traditional exchange, if they were going to do it as a Piccolo Nail exchange, would be a bit better. But either way, I feel like that's a unit that would be pretty cool, that people would be kind of excited for. Let me know what you guys think down below. It'd be nice to get some Namekian buffs at some point. Maybe we'll get a Dokkan Fest Lord Slug eventually. But yeah, I think this is certainly an interesting choice, a Nail or like a Piccolo exchange. So those are some of the top picks I was thinking for Namek Saga. If we take a look at Inhuman Deeds, this is one that is a lot more varied, and obviously one of the things we talked about with Vegeta and why his leader skill was not exactly necessarily ideal, because we have these characters like Baby, the Omega Shenron, all the Freezers, Dabura, oh sorry, Barbady, and then like Barbady and Boo, Goku Black. I mean, Goku Black they at least have like prepared for battle, but some of these characters, Super 17, Bojack, like Inhuman Deeds didn't really need, just like with Broly when we talk about things like movie bosses, like Inhuman Deeds didn't really need a leader that was a Saiyan, right? So I think we could get a Part 2 LR that was an Inhuman Deeds character, but looking at all the options here, there's none that stand out as something that I would want to see, right? Because even something like, you know, a standalone Bojack, these are the kind of things that we're kind of hoping they get their own celebration, right? Like we get a new Dokkan Fest standalone full power Bojack, and then we get the Easy A for this guy, the Easy A for the Tech Super Saiyan Gohan. Like those are the kind of things we want to be in their own celebration. So when we look at the options, like, especially because even if it is an Inhuman Deeds character, we would want there to be some crossover with Namek Saga, which then kind of only leaves us with Frieza as the option. So I do think if we're going to get a Part 2 LR and we are actually going to have it be related to the Part 1 unit, we're looking at Namek Saga. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Who would you like to see as a Part 2 LR? Would you like it to be something completely unrelated, like another Kale Super Boo situation? And if so, what would you like to see? But let me know all your thoughts on my picks. Let me know your thoughts on Planet Namek Saga characters that would make a good Part 2 LR. What would you like to see them do? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.